Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chuck. This is a special. This isn't my, a regularly scheduled program, so to speak. Um, the awesome dude I'm about to have on, really cool guy in the middle of a really great Kickstarter for a book that I absolutely adore. Um, he's got a baby, and it's really hard to time things, especially around something like my show, which is very much slotted. So we thought, hey, why don't we work something a little more special around his around how he's able to do stuff. So that's I was excited to be able to do that for him and help him out. So we're just gonna chat for a couple minutes. I'm gonna make sure this is all set up and good to go. If you guys are there, share, like, show it off. I think this is gonna be a really good discussion. We're gonna have some fun as always. Um, Especially if you guys were there for the last one. I will be completely sober for this one, so it'll be different. But yeah, okay, cool. We got a good chunk of people here. Say hi. Good to see you guys. And I'm gonna start this damn show. Let's make it happen. Dun, dun, dun. Where is the beginning? Right here.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck because I care.
What is up, buddy? How you doing?
I hadn't seen your intro before.
You've never seen that? How do you like that?
I do love Canadian bacon myself. That's awesome. And I don't ruin it with pineapple.
Oh, see, good for you. That's very respectful. Because I feel like when people do that, they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys are like the Hawaiians of the North," and I'm like, I think both the state and our country, we're both offended by that. So come on, people, get your shit together. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right, cool. Hey, I didn't get to say this beforehand because we just jumped into this, but if at any point you have to bolt, just let me know, or you can tell me in the chat below. Guys, it's so good to see all of you out there. I really like this dude a lot. The first time we met was at a show. I looked across from me. It was at 2018. I believe it was October, November. It was Celebrity Fan Fest.
Yes.
I looked across and you were there, and I was like, oh, this dude has done shit. Holy crap. And it was like, that was my second table ever. And so it was slightly intimidating, but you were, as always, a super cool dude. You've been really helpful. You did some colors for us for Belial, which came out gorgeous. That Chris Mad piece that you guys did together is just beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite pieces of art of anything that has ever been done on my properties. Just fucking love it. That's right. See, they know you, man. Savage Sasquatch. That's right, buddy.
It's Ben.
That is it.
What's up, Ben?
What are we talking about? We're going to be talking about Savage Sasquatch. We're going to be talking about the creation of all that kind of stuff. Because for you, this is a very you're hands-on on this in a way that a lot of us aren't. Like, as a writer, I'll do what I can, but then I can kind of step away. But because of your experience and everything you've done, you're there for pretty much every level. Like, you're way in there.
Yeah. Up until issue 3, I was even lettering it, and then I brought in McLean just because I honestly reached out and was just like, hey, what would it run to bring you on maybe next issue? Not really expecting for him to be like, hey, let's do this. I'm like, oh, we can swing that. So he came on right then and there. It's like, oh, this is
that's great,
rad. And he's like, oh, I hope I can do a good enough job. He was a super humble dude. And I'm like, I can letter, but I'm not a letterer. And it's like, he already, like, I thought I had a good book, but he took it to another level, just made it look that much more polished. You know, and I apologize to him profusely because I kind of put him through the paces of changes.
Texas represent. I love that. That's right, Ben.
Yeah.
Absolutely, buddy.
What's up, Tom?
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom's in the house, which you've done some work with.
Yeah.
Really good dude.
Stuff for him up right now that I was playing with before you and I started.
Oh, what's it for? You don't have to tell us what it is, but
he's already said, but working on Goth Day for him right now.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love that he takes advantage of Goth Day and that kind of stuff.
So yeah,
That's great. So a
yeah,
lot
we're
of
doing some
blacks,
new stuff. So it's interesting,
a lot
challenging,
of blacks,
but good. Yeah, a lot of blacks.
right? Alberta, Canada, great man. I love it in Alberta. I grew up there. Dan Stockwell's in the house. So why don't we go into, before we start with all this stuff? Why don't you go into a little bit of your, as gloss over it as much as you can, but your path through the comics world.
Sure. What was it 2001 or 2002? I ended up joining Antarctic Press as a intern and just learning the ins and outs of making comic books, and was a grunt and kind of went up through the ranks there, where I started kind of handling the day-to-day operations and running the production department. And at the same time, I was already into coloring. And there's if you guys don't know who Guru Effects is, Guru Effects is based originally out of Antarctic Press. They're a coloring studio who does all the top stuff for Marvel. And so I started working with them for Marvel stuff. First book I ever got the color on was Venom for Marvel, so that was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
And with them, I got to do a bunch of other great titles, Wolverine and X-Men, and you name it for Marvel, I've gotten to touch it. So I got to check all those boxes, and then from there I went solo and started doing a bunch of stuff with Wildstorm DC, and got to check a bunch of check marks over there. And all that while, like all that time doing all the coloring, I was still doing editing and doing conventions and all that for AP. So I've just been in it for just shy of 20 years, man. Like I was 20 years old when I started, and I'm almost 40 now. So.
John Westhoff comes in. He says, "Is it actually in the Antarctic, or is it just a clever name?" It's neither, I believe, actually.
It's clever in that they went with an A name to be at the front of the Diamond catalog book, and Aardvark was already taken.
Like AAA publishing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Russ Cassidy said he didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, AP. Basically, they're out of both San Antonio and Dallas at this point, right?
Yeah, San Antonio primarily, and Ben Dunn's up in Dallas, and I think he's doing kind of a satellite unit. That came after my time. So yeah. I kind of just see what I see on Facebook and like, oh, hey, Ben's doing stuff. Okay.
So, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving away from AP, because you are very much doing your own stuff right now.
Yeah.
What did it take to give you that boot in the ass to go, I've worked for all these amazing stuff, time to do my own shit?
I did create or owned with AP. I'd come up with Sasquatch, was planning on doing that through AP while I was still there, because I came up with this idea about 10 years ago, and I was going to do it there. And it was even like, hey, we're putting on a schedule, and I don't have a artist and I don't have a story, so how do we put it in Diamond to be solicited? So like, I'm not going to let you guys screw this up for me, because we're not doing that, because I like this idea too much to just crap it out. Yeah. So I held on to it, and it took a while. And then when I left AP, I joined up with another guy, and we started Guardian Knight Comics. And then Sasquatch was going to come out through Guardian Knight Comics, but it took a back seat to putting everything else out. I ended up being editor-in-chief there, and again, running the daily operations and writing other properties and editing other properties. So what Guardian Knight did allow is it connected me with Harvey Talabo, and my artist for Sasquatch is Gabe Santos, and he's one of Harvey's understudies. So doing Guardian Knight, which eventually imploded, got Gabe out of that. And so Gabe started drawing from my scripts, and once I was kind of out and ousted from Guardian Knight, I was like, I'm just gonna stick solo and do my thing, and we'll see what Kickstarter's all about, because I'm buddies with Marat, and he was just tearing it up on Kickstarter every few months, and several other guys I keep saying is like, man, like like I'd been a backer on Kickstarter, but I never really knew what to do with it for myself. I'm like, well, let's try this, man. So,
and I was there for that first one too. So yeah, and that's only, I mean, really, you've only been the Sasquatch's only been happening on Kickstarter for little over 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years ago, like I would right about right now was when the issue 1 campaign was ending.
And right now we're ending issue 5, right?
Yeah, next week we'll end issue 5.
Dude, that's so exciting. And so, coloring, to get away from Sasquatch just real quick, coloring, what is it about color? Because I'll be straight, and I've said this 1,000 times. When I'm editing, I've worked really hard to learn kind of as much as I can about the other aspects to be able to do. Coloring is my 1,000% weak spot. What was it about coloring that drew you in, kind of excited you? Because at any point you could have learned and tried to move on to any of those others, but you stuck with the coloring. What is it about that?
I kind of had an affinity for it more than anything. Yeah. I mean, I was like everybody that's in comics, I was wanting to be a comic book artist. I would draw, and I was taking drawing classes and doing all that in college. And when I graduated high school, my brother actually got me a pirated copy of Photoshop 5.5. That was his graduation gift to me. So I was like, oh man, I had invested like all the money I got from graduation to buy a computer and a scanner and stuff. So I had Photoshop, and I was scanning my drawings and taking them in there and trying to color and learn how to color in Photoshop my drawings, and slowly but surely, and finding crappy low-res line art for Joe Mad and Michael Turner and anybody and everybody coloring on that. It was just a lot of fun. And once I started working at AP, I still had ambitions to be a comic book artist, and kind of the first week there cured that. Because like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not even close to that. So, but they like my coloring, and these dudes are currently coloring Wolverine and Sabretooth for Marvel, and they're saying my stuff's not bad. Like, maybe I can make money at this. Yeah. So it kind of like, all right, drawing became less important, and I was already having fun coloring anyway. Like, my hobby, like when I'd go home, I'd be a giant nerd and sit down on my computer, and instead of just playing video games, I'd start coloring stuff in Photoshop. And it's like, oh, it's 8 hours later. My dad's like, what are you doing in there? I'm like, I'm coloring, bro. So,
well, and it's funny. It's like, I always love to kind of talk about bands and use bands as an example for comics. And basically, I think we all know the pencilers are like lead guitarists. And you can find anybody out there who's like, I'm going to be a guitarist. I'll do guitar. They all do that. But it's colorist is more almost like the bassist, where it's like, who are we going to get to color? I don't know. He's got markers. Let's use that dude. You know what I mean?
The failed guitarist is going to be the bass player. He knows how to play guitar, but he's just going to be the rhythm section.
Right. And most of the time they end up falling in love with it, and they're like, oh, cool. Yeah. I'd rather just do this.
Yeah. Until you hear a dude that can actually play bass, I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the bass guitar. So yeah. Ben said William the Last. Was that Guardian Knight?
That was yes, is the short answer.
Okay.
That was actually after I got I got fired. Let's say that. So that was after me, but yes, William the Last by way of Antarctic Press.
Okay. And Russ said black and white is boring to me. I got to tell you, man, I disagree on that. I do love color, but I think black and white is boring when they don't treat black and white with what it deserves. Like really kind of dig into the inks and really try to do, if they're just drawing and because when you do black and white right, and please feel free to correct me, but I feel like when you do black and white right, it probably becomes difficult to color it. Does that sound fair? Because no,
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it'd be like, because you can color anything, but some black and white lines can just stand on their own. I mean, look at manga. I mean, manga's read far more than comics are in any day of the week, anywhere in the world. And manga's mostly black and white, but you see, I mean, just like Ghost in the Shell and multiple other examples, you get those first couple pages that are in color. I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous. Like, I want it to look like that. And then a couple pages later, you're like, oh, whatever. I'm good as is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Akira, that's staggering in black and white. And honestly, I couldn't imagine wanting to color that.
Right.
But, somebody did it. But back in the day for Marvel, colorized. But yeah, well, that's not a job I would want now. That put too much detail, too much effort. That's a paint job that you need to do. And that's like old school. And that'd be awesome.
Totally right.
Like, I'd love to get into old school coloring, like the painting, but I don't know even where to start. Like, I have ideas and I want to get into it, but it's time and effort. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, it's a whole other skill, right?
Yeah. I'm interested and I've got ideas what I want to. I even bought some supplies, but it's one of those like, hey, I have to go and throw off the deep end to learn it, but I haven't had the time to do it. Plus, with a kid running around, it's gonna knock paint everywhere. So no.
It's funny when you were talking about being at home and just coloring for like 8 hours. I instantly thought about my wife, who I would leave in the morning. I would go to work and she'd wake up and take care of the kids and stuff. And then I'd come home and she'd have this, like, I remember this Ed Bennis piece that she had up that was Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And she had colored it and done a light source and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so, yeah, it is funny that people who love coloring just, that's a day. Like, you can just go and do it and you're happy. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Brian Mannell, he's like a regular guest on the show. He's a regular fan of the show. He's so amazing. He brings the best questions. So let's see what he has to say. He says, what sort of things do you consider when deciding between using one color or another? Mood, emotion of a scene, how certain colors make people feel, and or other important things to consider?
Yeah, usually the first thing I'll try to do that is I'll establish the setting, the room, because once I know in general what the room will look like, then you can take a little more liberties and exaggerations. Say, like, issue 1 of Sasquatch, for example, spaceship, kind of the prototypical blue, steel, metal. And it's so the backgrounds, when you see all the mechanisms, like, you go with the blue steel, but then there comes on like page 4 or 5, if I remember right off the top of my head, there's like Sasquatch making a point, like, oh, we're gonna have fun, this is gonna be a great time, and it's just him, and it's isolated, and instead of keeping that same blue-gray steel color in it just went with a massively vibrant red that just pop. I mean, the light source is completely different. It's incorrect, compared to what everything else is going on. But what it does is it enhance the impact of that moment. And that's what you're really trying to do with the color. You're trying to enhance the moments and give the emotions or help show the emotions that you want to do. Like, I've got a list on my computer. I've got a sheet. I went and did some research a few years ago to get better about the psychology of color and what colors mean, because colors have meanings. We associate them, and there's obviously easy. Warm is blue. Warms are reds and oranges and yellows, and blues are cools, and you can go that route. But it gets beyond that. Like, okay, what does orange mean? And okay, so yes, there's danger and alert, but there's secondary meanings too. So you use that to go into creepy vibes or psychologically issues, same with like purple. So it's like each color had a breakdown. And so I really went and kind of looked it up for a while. I'm like, okay, if I want to sell the idea that this person's disturbed, what are the colors that kind of register that? And so I don't remember them always off my head. That's why I wrote them down in the list, so I wouldn't have to go search them up again. And I'll pull it up. I'm like, okay, maybe purples and grays and yellows, and then of course complementary colors. You got purple and yellow are complementary, so it's like, okay, that can create good contrast. So general color theory helps, complementary colors, so you can get good contrast and change your depths of fields, because that's also what you're trying to do, is help establish the depth of fields and layers, if you will, foreground, middle ground, background.
Yeah.
So that goes into it. Obviously, if you're doing Spider-Man's red and blue, that's kind of where you start. But that doesn't mean he always has to be red and blue, because depending on the light changing, you can go like, oh, red obviously becomes more purple, blue goes black. So,
or let's be honest, now the suit, like he's had so many other suits. We've had red and gold. We've had black and white.
So, it's really just all going down to try and enhance the mood and draw your eye, because you want to lead the reader's eye to specific points. Yeah. So this, bringing up Goth Day again, that I'm doing with Tom, we're doing this experiment where we're going more to embrace the noir qualities of the story, where I'm rendering everything in black and white, like it's a black and white story. But the finished product still has color, but we're doing pops of color. So we're trying to do emphasis, and so it's been an interesting and fun challenge, because it's not just like, hey, I can make everything gray and this one bit red or this one bit blue, because you got to find that balance. So it's been really cool.
That does sound really neat. It's funny, you get people like Brian who give us these amazing detailed questions, and then I have this wide array of people who will watch the show, and you get guys like Comic Burrito who have their own show. They have amazing guests on, and they ask questions like this, which I love you guys, but what are you doing? I think I can answer it, but why don't you go ahead? Could you color a wrench?
Yeah.
What a great
Whether it's
question.
in a computer or in real life. I'll get me some crayons. My kid was just doing the refrigerator today, so I can take a page out of her book and go for it.
Tom said black and white is amazing if it's done properly. Manga is the example, or as the example, is crazy energetic even in black and white. Absolutely. Katrina's in the house. What's going on, hon? So many cool questions. Brian said maybe it'd be difficult to color if you use black for a lot of shadow work on pages that make it super stylized.
It can be tricky, but it can totally be done.
Yeah.
It's just trying not to, you don't try to work outside the bounds that the line art has established, which you can easily overpower, like, you can start doing a bunch of glows and all the stuff over it and detract from what's happening. But yeah, it's all a balance. I don't honestly, I don't really know how to explain that without like an actual visual example. So sorry, I'm kind of stumbling on that.
No, that's okay. Didn't they actually have a really good example of that though recently, where IDW showed off the original Jim Lee pencils from the early X-Men, like X-Men 1, 2, 3, his early run, and the pencils, there was so much detail that had been lost in the coloring because they had kind of colored over a lot of that. So is that sort of what you're talking about there?
Yeah, you can easily overpower it, because especially say you get a Dave Finch or somebody like that who does a lot of hatching and cross hatching in that, you can easily lose a lot of that by coloring too dark, and you'll just lose it. It's a fine balance in that. Part of it just comes from experience. I mean, you're gonna screw up. I mean, I can't say I've never screwed up. I've totally screwed up and made stuff too dark, and it's just, you're never going to know till you do it, and once you see it in print, because no matter how good your home printer is, getting it printed in the book by the real comic book printers, it looks different, and then from there you can try and make you calibrate your monitor to get more representative of the printed product and play with color profiles. And that's all super tech. It's all super geeky. I don't even understand all of it myself 20 years in, but I've got my monitor mostly zeroed in to where I need it to be. So I've got one monitor that I color on, and I've got this monitor I'm looking at right now that for everything else, because if I try to watch a video on my coloring monitor, it's going to be way too dark because everybody makes dark videos now.
Yeah, that's true, right? No one has the proper lighting. I am a good example of bad lighting. Russell comes in. He says, coloring is very relaxing, like watching an aquarium. I love watching artists draw on ink as well. I'm sure there's times though where you're fucking stressed as all hell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I take a much more relaxed approach to it now than I used to, because I have lost too many nights to even count. I remember we were coloring Thor, Son of Asgard, and I was awake for 4 days. I won't do anything like that anymore. Nobody can pay me enough to do anything like that. I don't care what your deadline is. I will quit before I even probably do an all-nighter at this point, because you're not going to pay me enough to do it. I'm getting old.
I totally feel
like I used to in my younger days. I could do it. I could bounce back. The last couple times I've done all-nighters, it took days to bounce back, as opposed to a 5-hour nap and a Red Bull.
Right? Oh, so, no, I totally feel you there. I used to be able to do 20-minute naps, and then I'd be like right back into it. And now I'm finding like, ooh, oh boy, you're gonna need a bit more than that. That's not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
You've ended those days.
Yeah.
Tom came in and said, "What happens when a publisher asks you to do something outside the normal manner of expected color style / palette?"
Well, you as we discovered yesterday, Tom, we just keep doing it till we get it right.
And I'm actually trying to.
And I go message somebody else like, I'm ready to quit. But then you don't.
I'm trying to. Oh, okay. Now I'm screwing around with the layouts. I'm trying to. I am very much so. So he sent me a picture, and I'm trying to find a way to show it off. Because I think he sent me one of the cool Goth Day pictures. I'll see what I can do. But anyways, we can keep chatting and whatnot while I try to figure that out in the meantime. Yeah, they're all working. Everyone's just kind of chatting back and forth, just seeing if there's any other questions. Oh, yeah. Brian Mannell was saying, Sin City, where they had certain points that kind of popped with the color. Yeah, absolutely. That would be a good one. A lot of doesn't Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips do that sometimes too, with some of their noir, where it'll just be like kind of black, white, and maybe a shade of one color.
A bit, yeah. That's I don't think the recent stuff has done that. They've done a little bit more of that when Betty Brightweiser was coloring. Now it's Sean Phillips' kid that's doing all the coloring for him.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that dude's really good too. He does some cool stuff. But they've got their own style. I mean, they're kind of continuing what Betty Brightweiser started coloring with them, that style, and that's a challenging and unique style all their own, and it's pretty rad. I've done one job where I tried to really replicate it and to varying success. I liked the job in the end. I thought the job was really well received and well executed in the end, but it's a learning process, man. Like she does her own thing that I don't know how or why she does something. She sees the world in her own way that's really cool, and like just studying it, I haven't quite cracked that nut. Maybe one day I will, but I'm not there right now.
All right.
Because that was one thing when working with Guru Effects, we were the go-to guys to fill in for anybody that was coming up short on a deadline. So any colorist across the board for any project, it's like, oh, hey, there's still 8-10 pages left and we need them in the next day. So they'd split them up between all of us, and the 3 or 4 of us that were working Guru, and we would do it and try to meet that style. Mo Hollowell, who was coloring Civil War. Like
Mm.
we didn't color Civil War, but we did a couple projects where they're like, no, we want it to look just like what Mo was doing on Civil War. And so I learned how to do it. And that's a super hard, time consuming style. And even in like Civil War II, like if you look really closely, because I used to really study coloring a lot.
Yeah.
I could see where the colors switch. I can even tell you who colored it just by seeing who colored, but it wasn't credited. But I was like, oh, that's Justin Ponzer, because I know just the way the colors laid down. Like it got to a point where you could see the fingerprints of other colors. So it's like I could look without even a credit and know exactly who colored what.
Like fucking reading the Matrix.
No, it's literally just like a brush stroke. If you're really into like painting, like, oh, you can see Van Gogh's paint stroke, or you can see Monet, and they're not the same. Like, hey, give them the same brush, it's going to look different. It's just I don't know why, but that's what it is. So I mean, it's even in digital coloring, everybody's got their own kind of fingerprint.
So I was lucky enough. Tom sent me a picture that you had just worked on. I think this might be from the Goth Day. So I'm going to knock both of us out for a second, just so we can look at this, and then we can talk a little bit about it. And let's. Add to stream. There I am. I'm back.
Hi.
And you're back. Okay. Yeah, no, they couldn't hear us at all. So, but yeah, so that's an example of what you guys. Is that for the new Goth Day?
Yeah, that's for the new Goth Day. I think we're done with that page. I'm not sure. That's a zoom in of a panel. Yeah, it's got multiple characters. That was Catnip, which I got to color the first appearance of Catnip, the issue. So it's kind of continuing that character, which is pretty cool. And then being introduced with all the other characters so far in the Big Dog universe, and just getting to play around. We got a little bit of time, but not too much, and it worked out. Tom hit me up, and I had a couple other projects that were supposed to be happening right now. That one was delayed, and the other one is just kind of I don't know what happened to it. Nobody's responding to emails or anything like that. It's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go over here and get this work, because we got bills to pay. You ain't paying them over here if you're not talking to me.
So I'm doing this all while being told, all right, you got to do it like this. I'm like, I'm trying to track it down. I'm trying to figure it out. This is not me at all. Oh shit. Let's take some comments while we're doing this. Tom is being a very good guy and talking me through this. I really appreciate it, Tom. Because this is usually it's just me and one other dude talking, and usually they're like, oh yeah, I can show my screen. Great, do you?
I could probably. I think I got a share button. I should be able to do that. I just got to open something.
Okay.
You want me to share that same page, Tom? Is that cool? Or you want me to show the page 4? Or I don't want to show anything I'm not supposed to.
Show the one that we were showing off already, because we know we have permission for that. And maybe you can talk people through it too.
I'm going to zoom in, because I got to keep some surprises and whatnot.
Right.
All right. Let me see.
In the meantime, Brian Mannell asked, do you have a favorite color, or say shade? And do you have a least favorite?
No, blue or green is probably my favorite on any given day. Just kind of depends on my mood, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you see that? I've hit share. I don't know if you got to click something or not.
Yes, I do. Here we go. Add to stream.
There you
Bam. Go. Oh, cool.
So yeah, you got Catnip. She's just done her gymnastic acrobatics off the roof to land in the middle of this dark alley. And like I said, everything was done in grayscale. But she's got the cool red dyed bangs. So it's like, all right, I'm going to do those definitely, because that's gonna pop, and it's right against her black hair too. And I can show the whole page. All right, cool. Let me do the. So there's our whole page. You know, her landing, and yeah, so doing her move, but she's got her blue hot pants and arm braces and whatnot. Her it's not a cape. Scarves.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so those were blue, and that seemed like a really obvious choice to make those blue, because that'll always lead your eye to her, which is what you want as the colors. You want to go and lead your eyes to her, and then top off on that, you know, do that really hot spot right in the middle here with I don't know, can you see my mouse? Yeah, this area.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, you're gonna zero in right there. The rest of it's kind of ancillary. So I mean, I want the viewer to look right there in the middle, and I think we achieved that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. That's a gorgeous page. That's just absolutely beautiful. I love what you guys are playing with. And again, like I would have no way to describe to you, hey, can we do that thing? Like, so I love that that you guys were able to communicate that to one another and figure all that out. So that's just,
well, the funny part was when
crap.
he kind of told me what he was thinking, and he showed me a JPEG. I'm not familiar with the artist of like, hey, this is some cool thing. I was thinking this, but not this. I was like, man, you know what? Like, you know, Graveyard Orbit, Chuck.
Yep.
So I'm working on another project to follow Sasquatch Graveyard Orbit, and I've been getting pages in, and I've been trying to think of something I want to do with the coloring, and it's very similar into this idea that Tom had brought to me here. It's not the same, but it's very similar. And so I'd already been thinking about it for the last several weeks or month even. He's like, okay, maybe I can do that. And then Tom just hit. He's like, so I want to do this, but different. And I was like, man, that's really funny you say that, because this has already kind of been in my head. And it's like, hey, guess what, Tom? You're going to be my guinea pig here. So you're going to pay me to maybe figure it out how to do it better later.
Right? Yeah. At this point, when you do Graveyard, you're gonna have to give him some acknowledgments. Just like, thank you. This is as good as it is because of you, because I got to screw around with Critter.
So, but yeah, it's been a neat experience. I would like it's both fast and time consuming, because one, you have to think differently. So just doing what I normally do, like I can go to a certain point, then I just have to stop and be like, okay, I'm done. Now I have to just think about it. And I use more layers doing this style than I do typically, and that just means it lets me make more mistakes and easily fix them, because I'm not, you know, like I said, I started this 20 years ago. You know, I started coloring in 2000 when I got that copy of Photoshop. So, I mean, it's been 21 years that I've been coloring.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, yeah, we had layers, but my computer was 700 megahertz. It wasn't gigahertz had just come out. And if you wanted a gigahertz processor, it's $3,000. And it's like, nope, I'm not doing that. So, and then when I started working with Guru Effects, the lead guy, Joey Welchins, man, that dude's like one of the absolute best in the business, and nobody knows who he is because he's Guru Effects. But that dude is like the pinnacle of the best, and he was using Photoshop 3, not CS3. He was using Photoshop 3. That was the first time they ever even introduced an airbrush, and that dude used Photoshop 3 up until about 7 years ago. He had the other ones, but he was just like, I can do it faster in 3. There's too much other extra crap in this new stuff that I don't need. And so he did it, but there was some new thing, newfangled tricks that new Photoshop could do, that effects that were becoming popular. So he would color it in 3 and then go do this
The
special
effects.
effect and then just bring it back and finish it off, whatever he needed to. And he crushed it, man. The dude's a beast. I mean, I learned more just by being in the room with him than anything else. Because like, he tried to show me stuff every now and again, but like Russ said, coloring, like watching coloring is pretty therapeutic. So honestly, I got really sleepy anytime I watched him, even though I really wanted to learn how to do it. It's like, bro, I've been up for 2 days. I'm tired. Thanks for showing me. I'm gonna go sleep.
Ben asked if you do your own flatting.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I do as many as I can, especially just right now, because I try to keep a fairly loose and light schedule right now, just because I'm full-time dad first, colorist, comic creator part-time at this point, just because my daughter's so young and my wife works out of the home. It's just works best because childcare is expensive. So I lay as many flats as I can on my own, and especially if it's an easy page, I'll make sure I pull it for myself. Or if I see something like I don't want to lay flats on that, then I've got a couple guys I might reach out to and get some help from.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just had this conversation with someone recently. We were talking about flatters. I have had many flatters approach me as a comic publisher and whatnot and go, hey, do you need flats? No, I don't. My colorist might. Like, and for the most part, a lot of, especially smaller time publishers, we're not hiring a flatter. We're hiring a colorist. If that colorist wants to go, hey, I'm going to take, 10 or $15 off a page or whatever and throw it at you to flat, great, cool. That's on them. And I don't care. I'll gladly credit them and all that kind of stuff. I have no issue with that. But I have no interest in, and also, why would you expect me to hire a flatter for someone else's colors? There's a good chance that you guys might not even be able to work well together. So, I mean, flatters out there, talk to the colorist. Don't talk to the publisher, especially a small-time publisher. We're not going to help you. We can't help you.
It's an absolutely essential and thankless job.
Yeah.
I've done freelance flatting just to raise extra money, and that sucks, man, because you're not on your schedule, you're on the color schedule. And if you're doing anything for Marvel and DC, guess what? The book's due in probably 4 or 5 days. So that means you got to get the whole book flatted probably as fast as that dude's coloring it. So
because they still have to letter too.
They can letter without the colors. They can do most of the lettering and then just fine tune it.
Okay.
I mean, it can be lettered at the same time, but it's one of those things where like, oh, hey, yeah, you just got 24 pages. Can you have it done tomorrow? I'm like, really? I can. Right. I'm not going to. So I do what I can whenever I do bring in a flatter. I don't do that to them. I give them as much lead time because I know it sucks. Right. I've done it, and it's like, you know what? I credit my flatters in the book, because it's helpful. I mean, it saves time. Yeah. I have a dude that helped me out on these last couple of issues of Sasquatch just because it got to a point where it's like, well, if I've got time to work on Sasquatch, I don't want to spend my time laying flats. Yeah. I want to work on Sasquatch. I want to get the colors done. So I used one of my dudes. He did the last 3 issues for me. He just knocked them out. And in my last 3 issues are the hardest issues of the series, just visually. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of elements. And it's like, man, I don't want to flat it. So I'm going to pay somebody else to do it. And that's money out of my pocket. I'm not going to make any of that money back, but it's money well spent because that dude allowed me to keep working on my book and not have to worry about the grunt work, if you will. I mean, because that's what it is. It's the grunt work. It's the dishwasher in the restaurant. Like, you can't not function without that guy, washing all those dishes. But it's a thankless job, unfortunately. But I appreciate the crap out of all the guys that helped me, man. And I will credit them all day, every day, any chance I get.
You're totally right, though. Like, yes, we absolutely need a dishwasher, but there's no such fucking thing as a 5-star dishwasher. Where everyone's just like, this guy is. No, nobody knows who that guy is. He really is unthanked. But you know, the kitchen appreciates him, and hopefully, if he's doing his job right.
Yep.
Brian Mannell says, was there any piece that helped inspire you to be a colorist, or maybe a particular color artist who inspired you? Obviously, you said Guru Effects was a huge one.
Yeah. Beyond that would be Justin Ponzer, who unfortunately passed away in the last year or two. Yeah, Tom. I mean that dude. I will argue to my dying breath that dude's the very best.
Yeah.
Like that dude was like, there's a lot of great colorists out there that can do amazing stuff, but that dude was just
Another
always
level.
next level. And whenever anybody, me included, were watching what he was doing, because every one of us, like I was buying books because Ponzer was coloring them. I didn't care about whatever was happening in X-Men or whatever like that, but like, oh, Justin's coloring that. J-Po, I got to get that because I got to see what the new hotness is. And like, oh, that's a neat trick. And just studying it, you know, you find like, oh, CBR, back when they used to do comic book stuff, you know, we'll put up previews of the latest thing, and I'm downloading the low-res JPEG just to see what I can see, you know? Like, I gotta, that dude was the best. And it's like, yeah, that dude more than anybody. I mean, there's a lot of great colors out there, but I've spent more time looking at his work than probably anybody else individually.
That's so cool. It's funny. So many people, by the way, I'm trying to catch up because there's been a lot of chatter, and a lot of them are talking about that page that we were just showing off. You know, I see the color contrast you're talking about with the cool blues and the warm background. So they're loving that.
Yes.
That's really cool how your team used the musical note as a panel frame.
That's Tom and CB Zane. And is CB inking himself, or has he got an inker? I don't know. I don't know that part. So
I'm sure Tom will mention it.
Yeah, that's those guys. I'm just here trying to help make it work. That was what Tom was alluding to yesterday when he was like, hey, when it goes outside the norm, we went, oh man, I didn't track how many times we were changing. We were going through a lot of changes trying to make it work.
So Wendy actually has a really interesting question, because she has a character who has black hair with blonde streaks. So she says, my main character has black hair with blonde streaks. It seems to be causing issues with any colorists who attempt to make it look right. Is blonde really that difficult?
No, but yes, because yellow can be challenging when there's too much cyan in it, specifically, because a lot of people get yellow wrong because it's either got too much K, which is black. You know, a printer is CMYK, so it's cyan, yellow, magenta, black, and those are the real complementary or real primary colors, by the way, not red, yellow, blue that you learned in primary school. It's wrong. Coloring nerdism right there. But yeah, CMYK, man. Like, so if you've got too much cyan in your yellow or too much black in your yellow, you're going to get muddy and you're going to get green, and it's always going to look bad. Like, and that's something I see a lot with newer colorists or people that are just learning is it's muddy, it's dark, or it's green as opposed to yellow. So I mean, you got to pull out the cyan and pump in a little bit of red if you need to. I mean, but yeah, it's not hard, but if you don't know what you're doing, it is.
Okay.
You know,
that's
between
really
the beyond yellow, like yellow is probably the second trickiest just because of the cyan, because you're going to get green real easy. The next is probably purple or pink, because those don't reproduce well in print. It's super easy to get what are called illegal colors, and it'll look like trash. So especially if you're coloring in RGB in Photoshop, which is a monitor is RGB, red, green, blue. All the colors come together in a spectrum and makes white. Whereas in a printer and in the real world, whenever cyan, yellow, magenta, and black come together, it makes black. So it's additive and subtractive coloring process. So they're polar opposites. So your monitor can do billions more colors than your printer can. So just because you can see it on the monitor, you're not going to be able to get it to print. So that's where it really you get the men from the boys, if you will.
Dude, this is exactly the kind of conversation I needed for coloring. Because, look, there's still like a lot of questions, and I think I would need to kind of see it coming together. But this is actually making a lot of sense, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Especially just the simple fact of, yeah, so red, green, blue, those are the actual primary. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a huge help to me. I didn't know
American
that.
school system teaches us wrong from the get-go.
Yeah, Miss Foot, you fucked me, and that's why I'm not a colorist. So thank you for that. You put me back. I'm in my 40s, and I'm finally learning this. So thank you so much, ma'am. Tom said you're crushing the book.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Brian said, I noticed that the colors on the character feel sharp and stylized while the background objects feel more desaturated or muted, but not too much. Do I have that observation right? I hope I'm not being mean. And if so, was that intentional?
Yeah, that goes back into what we were doing with the gray, the noir aspects with just pops of color. So the background is gray. And I've got a layer. I mean, I can probably pull it up here. Well, I stopped sharing it. Let me, again, it'll be easier to show than to tell. Let's see where I'm at, because I got so many layers on this, I don't even know what they don't do. Okay, so yeah, this is just the raw, like, that's where I started with. You know, that was just the basic rendering I did to begin with, just solid gray. And then once I knew I was going to do colors into it, I just replicated that gray layer, and that's when I really started tweaking. So I mean, you can see there's not a lot of work here, but I mean, you can look at CV Zane's lines. I mean, they kind of mesh and merge a little bit. So his lines didn't indicate tons of details and stuff like that. So I didn't want to put tons of detail into coloring and start noodling and doing too much, because honestly, that's the unimportant part is those backgrounds. You want to get the sense of what we're doing. So
could you even use a flatter for something like this where you're doing something so heavily stylized?
Yeah, and I did I did on these last 4 pages. I've got like 8 pages, and I did the first 4, and I had my other dude do the last 4 just so I could get a jump on it, because we're on a little bit tighter deadline than I probably would really like, just due to the Kickstarter running and the kid and everything like that. And we're getting shot number 2 next week, and so that put my brother and sister-in-law down for a couple days. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen to me next week. I got the Kickstarter ending, and I might be bedridden. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I was like, go ahead. I contacted my buddy Leo, who knocked out those 4 pages while I did the first 4 pages. And yeah, I mean, I just told him, I was like, hey, go gray. Just do it in grayscale, which works out better for me too, because I have a lot of layers here, but I don't generally work in layers. I use channels. So, I mean, this is my flats right here. This is what I always use. So the channels are all gray. So if you give me flats all gray, that's fine. It's what I'll use anyway.
It started you out. Okay, well, that's cool. And so actually Katrina came in. She's a fellow editor, and again, I'm sure she's a fair amount like me, where it's like coloring what. So can you explain generally what flatting for the newbies out there?
Yeah, I just stopped the screen again. Flats are, I guess I got to share this again. It'll be easier to, I guess I should stop not sharing this, huh? My bad. So,
boom.
Okay. So we're just going to go from the very, very beginning, because it'll be a lot easier than my trying to explain this. Okay.
So line you art, get right? That.
Line art. These are flats. So I'm just going to post in here. So flats. This is my flats. When I say flats, that just means they're colors that have no rendering or gray, whatever. So I have a specific area, and that way I can just come in and select with my selection tool, magic wand. And this way, whenever I do decide to color, I can just operate within that area. You know, hey, there's a quick gradient, or here's a quick gradient, and I'm not affecting anything else. The flats allow me to do that super duper easy, and that's how I color. I mean, I don't have a separate layer for color, whatever. I just work all on the background. You know.
Okay.
This is my usual setup. You know, actually, so up until the point I'm doing effects, glows and whatnot, this is my setup, like background layer and my line arts on the channel. So and then I have a channel for flats. So whenever I get the flats, I copy it, paste it into a channel, and that way whenever I come back, like, hey, so I've got this area, right? It's rendered. If I select it, you see I can't really select it because they've got this rendering.
Yeah.
So if I hop into my flats channel, I can go back and I can change it to what I need to be. So like, hey, no, I want it to be red, so, or orange. So I can easily do that.
Oh, cool.
So easy peasy, man.
And Tom Hutchison said that CB's doing all of his own line art.
I thought so, but I didn't want to put anybody out that did any work. You know, I didn't want to say like, oh no, he's doing it himself, because I really didn't know. I expected he did, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Wendy says, doesn't Flats give the colorist the palette they'll be working with?
If you can, I don't have a flatter that will, because most of them aren't doing it to color the page. They're just doing it to separate it. So I mean, I'll get crazy neon pinks and greens and yellows, and a lot of times the outfits won't even be right, even if I provide reference. As long as they break it up, I don't particularly care what color they use, because I'm going to go change it anyway.
Oh, okay, cool. So really, those grays just help to kind of separate everything. And
yeah, because if the colors become gray, so I mean, even though like, hey, here's neon green and neon pink, like side by side if they're touching, and once I copy and place them into the channel, once they're gray, if they're the same tone, they become one gray. So even though they're different colors, they're the same value. So that doesn't necessarily help me. So I'm more interested in different values than I am even colors, because that makes the flats more useful to me. You know.
Okay.
And if I just stuck with layers, it would be fine. But I'm old school, and even though I've got a beast machine, I'm still very much seconds equal minutes, minutes equals hours, hours equals days. So I look to save every single thing. So keyboard shortcuts, like, oh, if I work in channels, that's going to save me a good 30 seconds to a minute and a half, depending on how big the file ends up being. If I don't have layers, channels, my working file is going to be 12 megs, as opposed to, oh, hey, I've got 3 layers. All of a sudden, I've got a 400 meg file.
Cool.
So,
yeah, that makes perfect sense. Right?
It's. I come from back before computers got crazy powerful super quick.
Yeah.
And so, and the guys I was learning this stuff from too, they worked on Photoshop 3. There weren't really layers too much. It was mostly channels, and everything needed to fit on the zip disk, 100 megabytes. So I've got, I think the biggest working file I've had has been a gig, and that was because it was the DC Universe Online game, and they were animating the stuff. So layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of huge DPI. So it was like, dude, this is glad I bought a new machine right before I started this job, because my old machine would explode.
It would have done it. Well, and you brought up time, of course, because we only have so much time, sadly. Why don't you tell us, get us into a little bit more of the Sasquatch headspace, and really give us that pitch and get us all excited about him? Because honestly, man, I've said it before. You passed it to me, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then I read it, and I was like, "It's brilliant. That's what it is. This is fun, hilarious, just easy to read and enjoy." So please give us that pitch and tell us all about the Savage Sasquatch.
The easiest way to describe it is Bigfoot in space. So, and you're either going to get it or you don't right away. A lot of people, surprise me, don't get it. Like you said yourself, I've gotten that from you as well as many other reviews where it's just like, I really didn't think I was going to like this. I didn't think this was for me. Like that was every single review for issues 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Every single review was just like, I didn't think this was for me. I didn't think I was going to like it. And they're like, holy crap, this is awesome. Which is like, whoa. I was like, I'm glad you really liked it, but what do you mean it's not for you? Like, we live in the world of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for 35 years now or whatever. Like, if you can buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you can buy Bigfoot in space because that's awesome.
It's true, but it's like, you know, a lot of us didn't have to buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from scratch. You know what I mean? They kind of showed up on the horizon, and you were like, what is this big, huge fucking thing that everyone loves? And so then you have to check it out. So for this, it was like, what the hell is he doing over here? What is this thing? And then you read it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. It's way more intelligent, too, than you would immediately go to.
Thank you.
Just a lot, like fun is my main thing. Hilarious. And then, you know, one of my favorite things was you had the scene. I think it went from issues 2 to 3, and in issue 2, you had the coolest arm wrestling match ever. Am I right when I say issue 2?
Yep.
Issue 2 had the coolest arm wrestling match I've ever seen, and that's all I'm going to tell you guys. But then in 3, you took it to another level and you went, screw it, let's reenact that. And then you had like a bunch of people reenacting this really weird scene. And I'm like, it's brilliant. How were you like?
It's one of those things where, like, what do you do when you're with your friends? Like, you talk about the stuff. He's like, you're never going to believe it. It's like, no. Here, sit down and let me show you. And it was very much that, but you're walking in on the middle of it. And it's just like, and the crazy is trying to describe that in the script because the alien guys have 4 arms, you know? So it's just like, how do I write this? But the obvious thing was like, oh, have the 4-arm guy be the 4-arm guy. But I didn't go the obvious route because I was like, no, the 4-arm guy has a reason he doesn't want to be the 4-arm guy. So I was like, it gives him a little bit more. So I had to take pictures. I had to get guys in the studio back when we were still in picture. I'm like, here, sit around this table. Like, you sit here. And all right, we're going to get really weird. I want you to cuddle up with each other and finagle your arms under each other. No, don't hug him. That's weird. Just get in there. And so I got all the photographic evidence still. So I took these pictures. I had to put them in the script on top of just writing out the dialogues. Like, I know this is really hard, so here's visual aids to help figure this out. But imagine this dude here with 4 arms. I did like stick figures or something on the arms.
That was like straight up just one, and it was so fucking funny, dude. Like, just hilarious. And yeah, you're right. Like, of course they're gonna talk about it. Of course they're gonna reenact it. And it was so well done. So I
help figure this out. But somebody's asking for a link, and I was trying to get to it. He was like, "No, don't do text, bro. I just want to."
Right? I don't do that. But yeah, guys, I've already been through this. What did you put the link up for us?
Yeah.
Okay,
there you go.
Yeah, guys, seriously, go check it out. I've already done reviews for 1, 2, and 3. I have 4, and I haven't been able to review it yet. And of course, I jumped on 5 right away. Like, not even reading 4. I was like, no, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. And there's a difference between, like, some friends will bring something out, and you're like, oh yeah, I love you, man. I'm gonna check it out. And this was no, I haven't even read 4. I know I'm gonna love it, so I still have to get 5. I'm not gonna miss this. I
kind of read 5 because I sent you a script to help me figure out the problem. Yes. It's like, this is wrong.
That's true.
So he's not coming totally forth because I basically pulled him on as an editor. It's like, hey, I got an issue here.
That's true. It did get to come in and play.
He's like, oh, just no, take this chunk and flip it reverse the order so it goes this way. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's okay. And so we were already working on some new projects together. I'm like, no, you're on Sasquatch now too, because these are the final 2 issues, and I got to get it to hit right because it'll be a little bit of time before volume 2 comes. So I got to make sure it hits right, so when it leaves people with a good impression and want to come back for more.
Yeah, Katrina. Yeah, you definitely have to check this out. Maybe what he can do is he might be able to send you some digitals, and you can review it and talk about it because so much fun, hun. And throw that up on your website and show it off to everybody because such a great book. I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm a lucky dude. I get out there. Dude, shows are coming back to Texas. Do you have any shows coming up?
I don't have anything booked yet, man. We'll see what happens. Like I'm not against doing a show. I would like to. I'm hoping maybe we can get into Bell County because that did really well last time, but that wasn't even me getting in. I work with a artist rep group that got me in there, so I got to reach out to them, see what's going on because they help me out with some of those stuff. But yeah, it's so early in the gig. I'm hoping we can do was it Big Texas later this year. So I was all on board to do it last time. We had it all set, and then we didn't obviously go. So hopefully the deal's still in place because I gotta reach out to them too. But
yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, we're looking to do Big Texas. I'm already in for Comic Palooza and Fan Expo, so I'm excited about those ones.
Nice.
Yeah. So good, man. I'm excited to see you at shows and stuff.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
People.
Yeah, Doug comes in. Make sure to plug Comic Palooza. I just did, homie. I'm ahead of you. I knew it. Yeah, we got some shows coming up. That one's in July, and I'm excited because by that point I'll have my novels and I'll have issue 2, so I'll be able to show off your work on Belial too. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it'll be terrific. Dude, is there anything else you want to talk about before we head it out, or?
Sasquatch issue 5 ends next Friday. Yeah. So we got about a week left in the campaign. Issues 1 through 4 are all available in the campaign as well. So if you're getting on early, they're available digital, physical. I've got some great covers by great artists like Marat Michaels doing an X-Men 5 homage on Sasquatch issue 5. Sasquatch versus Sova Yeti. So I mean, you got your Bigfoot in space, and you got your abominable snow woman in cosmonaut gear.
As soon as I heard that name, I was just like, "This thing gets more brilliant." Sova Yeti. That's brilliant. That's so awesome. And holy shit, it's just so hilarious, guys. This is why I had to do a special episode, is because there was no way I was not going to have Wes Hartman on. First off, you guys got to go through all the way through coloring. Now I feel like I can at least talk about it semi-intelligently, which is huge. But guys, to talk about this book is seriously so much fucking fun. I feel like you're very much bringing because the 90s and especially like the 2000s, we've gotten very like kind of realistic with our storylines.
Yeah.
And you've kind of went, yeah, that's fun, but that's fine, but we got to bring some fun back to comics. And I feel very much you kind of feel like you're at the forefront of that banner. You're carrying the banner of no comics. We need to have some more fun comics out there.
Yeah, man, that was the goal. That was the goal when I said, it's like, I just want to make a fun comic, and not even just like, hey, this, like I took great effort to try and get every issue to stand on its own as its own story. So while not one shots, like you could read issue 2, and I fully believe you can enjoy issue 2 having never read issue 1. Same with issue 3, and same with issue 4, and same with issue 5. But obviously they work together to tell a whole. And now that's been a unique challenge because, you know, my previous comic experience was always working towards a whole. Like, Sky Sharks was a 5-issue story. Like, yeah, each issue stood on its own, but they really weren't self-contained. So it's like my writing exercise, if you will, is like, man, I want to do done in one stories, but have it all connect. It's the way comics used to be. And issue 5 is a 2-parter though. So issue 5 does continue in issue 6 because it's the climactic conclusion of volume 1, and the story was just too big to fit. And even issue 6 is like 30 pages. So I mean, it's already longer. So
you broke the mold with those two.
Yeah, it's like I just wanted to make fun comics, and I wanted to make a comic that was specifically designed to allow me to do like pretty much any kind of story I wanted to. So I have kind of no limit. So whenever I feel like doing a story about dinosaurs, I don't have to make a new comic about dinosaurs. I can just go to another world that's got freaking dinosaurs on it. Or if you want to go do a Western, because I love Westerns too, so maybe one day I'll do my version of a Western. Instead of horses, maybe they're riding dinosaurs. I don't know. I love dinosaurs, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't like dinosaurs, we might not be able to be friends.
I went through a massive dinosaur phase when I was younger, and it's always kind of been so. Yeah, I feel you, man.
Yeah, well, and dragons and all that, and now it's like my little girl, so it's just kind of like she's really big into animals, so it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, so we just kind of got animals all over on the brain right now. So we watched Finding Dory and Finding Nemo on a almost daily cycle. I got fishies, you know. So we're like, but that's I mean, I just want to make fun comics, man. I'll let somebody else get more melodramatic and dark and serious. Not that that's not in me, but that's not what I want to do or where I'm at right now. Like, I'm just like, bro, let's have a good time. Because I remember when I used to read comics and I had a good time. Dino Knots.
Dino Knots. That's it right there. He just, And now we're screwed because we've got something else we need to work on. Damn it, Tom. Right? Damn it, Tom. But seriously, guys, you are absolutely, if you've never checked out this series, you honestly are missing out. You know, I usually don't push the stuff as much on this show, but I just have such a fun time with this book and with this series, and he's absolutely right. You can do anything with it. It's a fucking blast. So please, guys, check out what Wes is doing. We already put the link up there, but it's easy. Savage Sasquatch. It's exactly as it sounds. It's the funnest book on the internet right now. You got to go check it out, man. And that's exactly where you're going to get it. Get on it now, because 5 goes into 6 and then that's done. And there's a good chance we'll be seeing like a graphic novel.
Yeah, there'll be a collected edition, which I'm hoping to have a couple cool surprises in it. That, you know, we'll see. We've got agreements in, but it's actually getting the work done is the question mark, as always.
You guys heard it first, though, man. You can expect some really cool stuff coming forward. So please go check it out. Dude, thank you so much for coming out. This was a blast.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you taking your time during the day and doing a special show for me. It's been fun this round. I don't do a lot of these, and it's still trying to get comfortable while I do them. You know, I kind of ramble in my I'm on mode, you know, whereas outside of on, I'm fairly monosyllabic. So it's trying to Tom's gonna be
Damn it, Tom.
Man. That dude's a machine.
right. Hey, all we ask is that you bring him on to color it, okay? At the very least, bring him on to color it, okay? We really appreciate that. Thank you, Tom. So thank you guys so much for coming out, dude. We had a really good bunch of people out here. I really appreciate it, and for impromptu, that's huge. So thank you guys so much. My name's Chuck. I give a fuck. Peace, love, and comics, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much. Again, thank you, and go check out Savage Sasquatch. I am certain you will not be disappointed. Peace out. Stay safe, everybody.